Who is our God? Are we alone in the universe? What is the meaning of life? What awaits us after death? Was there really a Big Bang? Why did Jesus Christ sacrifice himself to save humanity? There are many questions, millions of them, but finding an answer to each one would take more than a lifetime. Therefore, on our channel, we will try to answer only those of them that we have time to do. So, let's get started. The legends of the peoples inhabiting the Philippine archipelago have preserved stories about the ancient country of Mu, a continent that existed here in the distant past. The continent was located in the Pacific Ocean and was destroyed by flooding 14,000 years ago. The people of the country of Mu were distinguished by their gigantic stature and had super-developed psychic abilities, which allowed them to create a civilization that did not need technical tricks. But a universal cataclysm led to the destruction of the continent, and only 7,000 islands remained from the former territory of the country of Mu. According to supporters of this legend, with the end of the last ice age, the water on Earth rose by about 70 meters. Temperate climate zones turned into tropical forests. The advanced cultures that lived on the coastal plains of these regions, on the coasts of India, Indochina, East Asia, and Western America, abandoned their home regions due to overheating, changing vegetation and animals, and migrated to new temperate regions formed by the retreat of glaciers in the interior. They also brought their remaining knowledge and culture to these regions. Some cultures have disappeared in the last 50,000 years. Some cultures evolved into the Sumerian and ancient Indian cultures, which are considered the cradle of civilization. According to theorists of the existence of the civilization of the continent of Mu, the homeland of mankind was the cradle of a huge antediluvian civilization about 25,000 years ago. This huge continent, now submerged in the waters of the Pacific Ocean, came to the fore thanks to the lifelong explorations of the British Colonel James Churchward. According to him, the continent of Mu stretched from Hawaii in the north to Fiji and Easter Island in the south. After retiring and returning to England, Churchward spent 10 years trying to decipher these writings, and in his opinion, he succeeded. Allegedly, they contained information about a huge continent in the Pacific Ocean, whose inhabitants called it Earth Mu, and which perished about 10,000 years ago. Churchward claimed that it was a highly developed civilization, whose representatives possessed levitation, clairvoyance, teleportation, could make astral travel, use the energy of the sun, and much more. According to the British researcher, this civilization existed for 4,500 years, and the cause of its destruction was an asteroid that fell to Earth, causing a wave of earthquakes and tsunamis, as well as volcanic eruptions. As a result, the continent split into parts and went underwater. Only a few islands remained on the surface. The few survivors settled around the planet, giving life to other civilizations. The colonel described the ancestral home of mankind as a kind of earthly paradise. There, several tens of millions of Murians lived in prosperity for 50,000 years. It was from there that the spread of the human race across the planet began. These pre-Adamites had a highly developed society in technical and spiritual terms. Churchward claimed that the age of the known civilizations of the past is much greater than generally accepted. They all appeared approximately 11,000 years ago after the death of the last mythical colony of Murians, Atlantis. 10 tribes of this land spoke the same language, but had different writing systems. The settlement of different regions of the globe followed the plan of settlement of Murians, as a result of which various peoples were formed. The researcher described in detail the life of Murians, translated some stone tablets, allegedly left over from those times. According to him, he received all this knowledge while serving in the military in India, at the very beginning of his career. Churchward claimed that during his military service in northern India, he came across an ancient Buddhist temple, the monks of which showed him clay tablets with unknown writing. The monks themselves could not read them, but believed that they described events that had happened many years ago. Moreover, the abbot of the temple was allegedly so kind as to give the Briton these tablets. According to him, the priest of a secret cult gave him artifacts containing historical and religious documents of Mu. Churchward explained that these tablets, which he found in Tibetan temples, were written in the Nagamaya language, a language he learned from the monks over 12 years. Much later, Churchward even published a detailed decipherment of these tablets. It is claimed that the writings of those people who fled to China and the surrounding islands after the destruction of the continent of Mu say the following: "Our continent sank. We fled here." Churchward insisted that the age of these inscriptions on the stones is 14,000 years. There are other indirect indications of the existence of an ancient mysterious civilization in the Pacific Ocean on Earth before the Great Flood. For example, these are 2,600 tablets discovered by the researcher William Niven between 1921 and 1923. They are now in the Museum of Mexico. Or, for example, an old Mayan book, the Troano manuscript. Prepared in Yucatan, it is in the British Museum. Another Mayan book, the Cortesian Codex, is today in the National Museum of Madrid. Or the ancient inscriptions on the Temple of Uxmal in Yucatan, Mexico, which Churchward claims was built in memory of the sunken continent of Mu. These inscriptions contain this phrase: "It was built to preserve the memory of the Western countries from which we come." According to researchers of the civilization of Mu, the main migrations from this proto-continent took place in North and South America, Central Asia, Egypt, and Anatolia. According to Churchward, the Uyghur Empire, which existed 70,000 years ago, also spread to Europe. The Uyghur Empire suffered from two major natural disasters, one of which Churchward called a magnetic catastrophe, due to which there was an uplift of mountains such as the Himalayas, and the surviving people formed several aristocratic tribes, including many European peoples. According to some sources, almost all of these Mu tribes, of Central Asian origin, who spoke about 40 languages, have in their lexicon the word Ata, meaning father, but with a slightly different pronunciation. Churchward believed that the Celts, Basques, and Scythians were descendants of the Uyghur Empire. The ancient Egyptian god Osiris was actually a living person and was educated in the Mu Empire. His teaching was later called the Religion of Osiris and was brought to Egypt by Hermes Thoth. But Churchward himself admitted that the evidence provided was insufficient for the unconditional acceptance of this hypothesis. Perhaps this is why the former colonel devoted the rest of his life to searching for this evidence. The researcher found many coincidences with ancient writings in the cultures of various peoples of the world. Moreover, he identified patterns in the development of the language of the ancient Greek civilization and the Mayan people. Churchward was sure that the Maya and the ancient Greeks had one source. However, the retired colonel was not the discoverer of the Mu culture. His predecessor, Augustus Le Plongeon, studied ancient Mayan texts in Yucatan in the mid-19th century and found out that the Maya considered the Atlanteans, Egyptians, and Mu to be their ancestors. 15 years later, geologist Philip Sclater, in his work, The Mammals of Madagascar, spoke about the existence of a lost continent on Earth in the distant past. He called it Lemuria. Some researchers believe that the Mu people lived in Lemuria. This was confirmed in Mayan writings. There are even detailed maps of this sunken continent. They were discovered on stone tablets by the Spanish scientist Javier Cabrera. Naturally, representatives of official science, both then and now, do not recognize the veracity of his research, considering it pseudoscientific and calling Churchward himself an adventurer. Thus, geologists, referring to the theory of plate tectonics, claim that the existence of Mu, Lemuria, and Atlantis is physically impossible, since the continent can neither sink nor be destroyed in the short period of time mentioned in myths and legends. However, supporters of Churchward's concept cite as counterarguments the fact that in place of the supposedly disappeared land of Mu, there are dozens of islands on which archaeologists find ruins of temples, megalithic structures, fragments of statues. For example, the ruins of the city of Nan Madol, comparable in scale to the idols of Easter Island, the Indonesian pyramid of Gunung Padang, which is higher than the Egyptian ones and 5 times older than them, the Tonga Gate on the island of Tonga Tapu, stone columns on the northern Mariana Islands, and so on. At the moment, scientists cannot clearly explain all these archaeological phenomena. So perhaps James Churchward was right, insisting on the reality of the existence of the continent of Mu. Despite the romance of the story, the continent of Mu remains a myth. Science has yet to find evidence of its existence. But as a cultural symbol and philosophical metaphor, the antediluvian civilization of Mu lives on, reminding us of how little we still know about our own past. And if you want to know the real truth about our past, just read the Bible.